So what is copywriting? Copy is the text that contains the advertising or selling message in an advertisement. So these words are intended to attract the interest of the reader and to persuade them to buy or try a product. So it's based on the copyright the reader will decide whether they have to buy it or not. So the person who writes the copy is called a copywriter. So what should the copy contain? Information that is relevant to the audience, and research the demographics. Demographics means these are the statistical characteristics of human populations such as age or income, used especially to identify markets, a change in the state's demographics. So you have to research the demographics, educational level and technological know-how of the audience. And descriptions of the product or a summary of the product features will be there, and you can describe the events, instructions, information where it is necessary. Some pointers are you have to use lucid and succinct style. Succinct means that should be very brief, or you have to write your things in a very clear manner. That should be brief and short. And be aware of style guidelines that he or she should follow. And we have to use short sentences and simple words as far as possible, and avoid unusual sentences. Normal sentences are mainly used. And you can avoid complex sentences or compound complex sentences. Preferably you can use simple sentences. And you have to avoid ambiguity and words that have multiple meanings. So because it will create some connotative meanings and some intentions. So try to avoid the ambiguity, and you have to use the words that are that have multiple meanings. And we have to avoid the using of idioms, slangs and colloquialism, because the readers, they may not be able to follow your some slangs, or if you are using some slangs and some particular idioms, that will be culture specific. So try to avoid using of these idioms and slangs. And you have to edit and pare down paragraphs, and you have to explain in a logical and step-by-step manner. So there should be a logical sequence and there should be a connection between each paragraph, and make the process very clear. And each sentence should be semantically and syntactically correct. Semantically you mean in meaning wise, and structural wise it should follow a correct order. So what is a copywriter? Who is a copywriter? Copywriting is not just about writing, it's about using words to make an idea come alive. So copywriters create advertisements that make you laugh, smile and cry. What a great way to connect with people. Copywriters write for television, radio, newspapers, magazines, brochures, websites, posters, billboards, Twitter, Facebook, and many more. So copywriters have to find the right words to talk to different groups of people. So you have to speak to in their language. So understanding people is the most important tool a copywriter can have. It really helps when you have to advertise the most boring product in the world. So it's not just about selling. It's about making people feel good about the brand. And some people may be confused. What is the difference between copywriting and content writing? So copywriting is selling your personas on your brand, whereas content writing is subtly telling them about it while delivering a valuable content. So copywriting is the art of selling people on an idea, brand, ideology. So the best copywriting fuses the products and ideology of a brand together to create branding. Copywriting is advertorial in nature, as it is to pitch customers to use a brand's product and or services. So a copywriter writes marketing material A content writer writes the content. So traditionally, copywriting was limited to advertising only, but the internet changed the scope of what copywriters can write for. They can write beyond the advertising thing. So today the list includes, but it is not limited to these kinds. They can write ads online and offline. They can write slogans, taglines, web page content, SEO content, email campaigns, television or radio commercial scripts, video scripts, press releases, white papers, catalogs, billboards, brochures, postcards, sales letters, direct email letters, jingle lyrics, social media, etc. Then likewise, content writing has plenty of opportunities to write different kinds of content, including but not limited to blog posts, newspaper articles, magazine features, white papers, email newsletters, e-books, books, print magazines, social media posts, podcast, television, film, radio, etc. So what does a copywriter do? They used to research, they used to write, and they will conduct interview and they will be writing in the interview and they will edit, they will proofread and they will manage the projects, they will manage the source images and they used to plan and implement the marketing campaigns and they will measure the wider impact of their work. So unlike fiction writers or journalists, copywriters usually write with an agenda. So the client's agenda and in turn the customer's needs. So that will be the main aim of copywriters. So it might be to promote a product, but it might also be to educate an audience or demonstrate expertise. So what do copywriters write? We have already discussed. Let's move into more detail into that. So they used to write blog posts. So these can range from around 400 to 1500 words. And they are usually a bit more informal or opinionated, but it varies from client to client. Then what is this white paper? What is white paper? White paper is actually a report or guide that informs readers concisely about a complex issue and presents the issuing body's philosophy on the matter. So it is meant to help readers understand an issue and solve a problem or make a decision. So typically, the purpose of a white paper is to advocate that a certain position is the best way to go or that a certain solution is best for a particular problem. So when it is used for commercial purpose, it could influence the decision-making process of current and prospective customers. So, not like the government ones though, white papers tend to be 1500 to 2500 words and are informative educational documents that explain the origins of a problem and how it might be solved. Often that solution will be linked to what the client sells, but the majority of the white paper will be objective and useful. So these tend to be gated behind a form and are used for the lead purpose or lead capture. Then the copywriters, they used to write emails. Email campaigns are there to spike interest, to raise awareness and to prompt an action. So they have to be very short, enticing and informative in order to help or nurture leads into customers. So another important thing they do is social media post. So those limited character tweets and witty Facebook updates don't write themselves. Social media requires copywriting too. So then another thing is case studies. These are short articles that explain how a company helped its customers. And case studies often have a formulaic structure, but a good copywriter can find the story inside it. Then industry reports. Sometimes we have to get a bit heavy and write some hardcore reports, and these are based on real research that expands upon a certain issue, industry, or trend. So let us see the difference between a copywriter and a content writer. So a copywriter drives sales or the lead generation, delights the reader so they want to take an action, and uses emotion to seal the deal with the words, and used for ads at email, website, social media, etc. Whereas content writer, they are using storytelling to bring a business to life. They inform, educate, and engages the reader, builds no trust factor over time, and longer form content like blogs, articles, and white. Then coming to what is a web